All right. Well, with that, let's get started. Before we kick things off, I want to make a few announcements. We just had NAB. Adobe made a bunch of announcements at NAB. The AI stuff that's coming down the pike is amazing. I can't wait till we get a hold of it, although I have no clue when exactly that'll be. Did they publicly say, Kes, when all that AI stuff's coming out? Do you know?
I think they were aiming for end of 2024, hopefully. So
Yeah, I think that's right. But yeah, I mean, we're talking game-changing stuff, and in a future meeting, we will cover all that. But needless to say, I mean, it was extend a frame, which is something that I can definitely use in my world, being able to, because I have to cut so many interviews, and the client asked me to cut right in the middle of a sentence, and I don't have a good enough frames to transition. And the extended frame thing is going to allow me now to, create that extra time that I need, having some person on, on screen.
right.
And then what's the other one? The object removal.
Yeah.
And
And
then
I
what,
think we're
what was
getting Gen Fill as well.
the which one?
We're also getting Gen Fill, I think, as well. So like
That's
you'll
right.
draw like I think their demo was like, oh yeah, let's have an empty suitcase. Let's put some diamonds or gold and stuff in there with a Premiere mask.
Right, right. Which at the end of the demo they filled with rubber duckies, which I was a fan of. So, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's really, you know, it's just such game-changing stuff that's be coming down the pike. I mean, the stuff we'll be able to do now, to tie this back into Star Wars, it's like ILM really on your desktop to a small degree. But I mean, if you really add in the stuff you can do with AE now with all the 3D stuff, I mean, I don't fully comprehend all that stuff, but with that, and then with these kind of tools, I mean, we're talking just it's really going to empower you as editors to really create stuff that 10 years ago we would have never thought we could do on our
Right.
laptop, so or desktop system. So it's really pretty amazing. So what did you think of all that, Cass?
I thought it like when I first saw the video, I thought, wow, this will definitely be a game changer. Like, don't get me wrong, like I definitely do want overall improvements of the application of Premiere and After Effects in the grand scheme of things, but like the ability, like you said, to extend a frame, extend a frame a bit longer, or to have B-roll using LL models from Open AI or Sora and what have you. It's like that's just it's like we're now really in the trenches of AI, and we need to acknowledge it. So it's a tool that's going to help us get to our deadlines a lot quicker. Be able to push out more content quicker, and also be able to hopefully iterate and ideate a lot quicker than before.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's gonna be awesome. I'm definitely more on the pro side of like looking forward to a lot of these AI tools. I know there's a lot of fear out there from people, and I understand that. But I think the things that we'll be able to do now and be able to fix for our day-to-day jobs and for our personal projects, be able to create. I
Right.
mean, good grief, man, it's gonna be a whole new world. So before I wanted to open it up to anybody who might have questions about that before we kick off. If anybody has, wants to kind of ask a quick question about that or has a comment on that real quick, I'm happy to, you know, um, let you speak. So just go ahead and open up your mic and ask it. If not, we will get going here.
Eric, this doesn't necessarily apply to that, but when I got an email saying there's an event, I went online and it shows an event on April, but it starts at 12:30 today. So I'm not sure whether you did a cut and paste and didn't get a right date in there. So some people,
Oh,
I'm going back to see if that's where I can find that again, but I think that's what I tripped over when I tried to sign into this meeting or heard about this
it
meeting. Just
said it
as,
was in April because I'm pretty sure hmm.
anyway, when I went to the event,
Yeah.
clicked on the link from your email. It took me something that said it was the April event, which looked like it was a copy from the last one. But when I actually clicked on join the meeting, it took me to the right link. But anyway,
Oh,
what that's
okay.
worth.
Well, I'm not sure what I did there, but nuts. Hopefully not too many other people got confused by that. So, all right. Well, thanks, Bob. Oh, that is what I saw also, which is why I thought I missed this. Huh. Okay, thanks, Alan. I don't know what happened there. I'll have to I will look into that. That must have been on the Facebook page, so maybe I screwed things up on Facebook. Be the first time.
Hey guys,
Um,
I just
okay,
wanted to
well,
say what's up and thanks, Kes, for doing this. I've been waiting for this Excalibur workshop, and I was actually at NAB, and I was in some of the NDA meetings before they revealed the AI stuff, and they had us scan QR codes and gave us polls of like, what are you going to use AI for? And everybody, it was kind of like it's kind of an awkward round table.
Right? You know, it's
Because
hey,
it was like rough cuts, and then rough cuts would go up, and then rough cuts would go back down, and then it's like, yeah, everybody's going to use it for something like that sooner or later. So it's like, uh, I made something that I showed them, and I can show you guys privately or something too. But I made something called auto action, which would run through text transcription and jump to every time a word said action, adds a marker, adds a cut, and then I was gonna like automate it with Excalibur, like what you're doing, add a lift or something. But that
hmm,
stuff's coming no matter what. So it's about using the tool or not too.
yep.
But thanks again for doing this. I really appreciate it, Kes.
no problem. Thanks for attending, Fred.
All right. Well, I'm not going to hold Kes back anymore. So I'm just going to turn it over to him. I will say, I was thinking about this, Kes. Like, I'm trying to think about like how long we've known each other. But I remember I didn't meet you like in person. I met you through Twitter, as so
Yeah.
many other post-production people did. And you were awesome because back in the day on Twitter, you used to do the Follow Friday thing. And you would post this like huge list of like people that you should follow. And I will never forget the first time you included me on that list. And I didn't know really who you were. So I figured you was like, this guy must be super well connected. Look at all the people that he knows. And when I got on that, you included me once, I'm thinking, holy crap, I've made it. I'm like Twitter famous now.
Right.
And then when I finally got to meet you in person and we got to talk, I was like, this is the coolest guy ever. And but anyway, so yes, Kes is one of the smartest people I know about Premiere. I like to think that I know a lot about Premiere. I think I know a fraction of what Kes knows. Kes and Yarla are two of the, I mean, I'm lucky that you guys are doing back-to-back meetings for the group because you guys are just amazing. So I'm going to read a little bit of what Kes sent me. He's a 16-year-old video production professional based out of Arlington Heights, Illinois. He knows pretty much everything about Premiere, After Effects, Final Cut Pro. He also is a huge guy on the Reddit. You manage the Reddit Premiere group, right? Or
Yeah, so I help. I'm one of the lead moderators for the R Premiere subreddit, and I recently became a mod thanks to Jeff Greenberg for the R Premiere Pro subreddit. We were able to do a coup and take that over because it just was not performing at the levels that it should be. So we recently took that over, and I'm also participating in that. But I also help moderate on the R Premiere Discord,
Discord, I was going to say.
and I also work as a customer support advocate with Submachine with Jesse and Andrew. And I also help people on various servers. So I'm just out here just I've always been of the mentality that like if you put knowledge out there, knowledge will come back to you. So in the last 16 years of doing this, I've seen that happen in so many different ways.
Awesome. Well, the thing that Kes is going to talk about today is Excalibur and how you can use this. And for those of you who don't know what Excalibur is, I'm sure Kes will cover what that is, but it is a very, very handy plugin, I guess you'd call it, extension for Premiere. I have that as well as all the other stuff from Knights of the Editing Table. And if you're not using them, you definitely need to check them out because they're definitely worth it. And yeah, with that, I will turn it over to Kes. So go ahead and share your screen, my friend, and kick it off. And I'll kind of monitor for questions and things like that in the chat pod. And if I see anything, questions pop up, I'll ask them for them.
All right. So like Eric was saying, Excalibur from Knights of the Editing Table, it's a next level extension for Premiere Pro. When a lot of people have probably seen Excalibur, they're probably thinking, oh, it's just a FX console for Premiere. So I could add, effects. I could do transition stuff like that. Well, yes, you can. You can search for and apply effects, transitions, and presets, but you also get access to expanded Premiere Pro commands. Like I could do selections without having to use the mouse as much. I could select above and below in a track-based timeline, which is something that I've probably only seen maybe in Final Cut Pro and Resolve. And I can also create simple to complex macros that improve my overall workflow. And I can add keyboard shortcuts to like just about everything in the Excalibur settings menu. So it is a lot like FX Console Premiere, but it's a lot more. So currently the version that's out right now is 1.2.3, and it works on Premiere Pro 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, 24.3, and the public beta. I believe the minimum requirements for Windows is Windows 7, 10, and 11. Ivan, if you're watching this, feel free to let me know in the Discord I'm correcting on that. And then it also works on Mac OS 10.14.5 and above. And just like your Creative Cloud subscription, it could be installed on 2 separate machines. So I can install it on my home machine here, and I can also install it on my work machine in Schaumburg, Illinois, and be able to trade both my like keyboard shortcuts for Excalibur on my work machine and bring those over to here. So the whole being cross-platform really opens up its user base. So the 2 core items when it comes to Excalibur are its search bar. So within the search bar, I have access to all my user commands. I also have access to all of the Excalibur commands, and I also have access to any transitions I have installed, any effects I have installed. So, if you have Film Impact, if you have Force Effects, if you have Red Giant Universe or Maxon Universe, as they're called now these days, you can be able to access that without having to go to your effects search bar in Premiere to get that. And then if you need to add, if you want to build macros or, look at the expanded Excalibur commands, that would be in Excalibur settings. So what you're seeing right now is just a long list of, user commands I've created over the last 3 years that help me be able to move. So I can change scale, I could do pace, I could do nesting of clips, moving it, removing of transitions, a whole lot of stuff. Just really expands what you can do in Premiere that you can't do natively. So, I'll jump over to Premiere. So say, for example, I'm in Premiere and I'm like, oh, I got my sequence bin, but then I have to go through and, for example, if like I had just like bins on bins on bins, I have to do a lot of whole searching. Not with Excalibur. If I use my custom keyboard shortcut for open sequence, I can look at every sequence I have created, whether it be a main sequence, a nest, and open that. And just like that, we've opened up a sequence without having to go through my bin at the project panel level. And I can do that for other stuff as well. So do that. Do that. And then I've also created, macros and commands that allow me to do other things like close other, be able to hopefully close sequences and stuff like that. But also, one of the things that, I'm pretty sure has been feature requested by users of Premiere for like the longest time is the ability to select up and down. Like usually you have to go, oh, I got a clip right here, but I want to select this clip down here and this clip here and here and here. Well, what if you didn't have to do that? What if I want to go down like this, just with the keyboard? So I have the ability to select up and down thanks to what Excalibur allows me to do. Because of the code that's within Excalibur, I'm able to select clips above and below in a timeline, even though I'm in a track-based timeline. I'll just disable that. So go back to the PowerPoint. So yeah, the core items are the search bar and the Excalibur settings. But one of the things I definitely like about Excalibur is that like you don't have to type out a full word to get everything. So I could type in, say for example, I want to select this clip right here and I want to apply effect. Let's say a tint effect. If I type in TIN, it'll bring up all the tints I have available. So, I have Sapphire tint, I have Forest tint. So let's go with the native Premiere tint. And I hit enter or return and it applies it. No need to go to the effects panel, type this in. And the amount of time it took me to do this, I was able to get to the tint effect without having to do too much searching. And then if I wanted to remove it, if I want to apply something else, like say I want to apply a transition like right here, like usually I'd have to like select an edit point and go to the effects bar and apply it, or I could just go into my timeline. And let's say I want to do a fade to black or dip to black. Do that, and I could apply a transition. Now I have the ability to determine how many frames I need as opposed to just applying the transition, going into the effect controls panel, and then finagling with all that. So let's say I want to add like a 12 frame dip to black. And just like that, it's applied. So it'll also reflect in the effect controls and showing me all of that. And it's not just with one clip too. I can do that to multiple clips at the same time. So I can select multiple edit points and apply a transition. So let's say I want to use the film impact dissolve. And let's make them all about like 15 frames. And just like that, we also have a transition. So you do have the ability to add multiple transitions and multiple effects to multiple clips at the same time. And think about this. How many times have you found yourself in a situation where you wanted to remove multiple transitions at once, but you had to like click them all while holding Shift and Alt or Shift and Option? What if you didn't have to do that? What if all you had to do was just highlight the clips with the transition and hit Excalibur, remove, transitions. I could choose either all across across my sequence or just to select the clips, hit enter, and they're all gone. So one of the things, so just as you're seeing right here, it's like Excalibur really opens up the ability to do a lot of things that you may not natively have the ability to do in Premiere, but it could also expand what you want to do in Premiere to a certain extent. So it's like, you know, I can remove transitions. I could select clips up and down. I could even do extend my selections by just doing, you know, select below. Let's say I want to select the clip on V2. And all I'm doing is just hitting a keyboard shortcut. And I can do that. And, you know, if I go into my Excalibur settings, I have the ability to do a lot of things. I have the ability to look at Excalibur shortcuts. I have the ability to look at all my macros that I built and whatnot. So, you know, I could change position, I could change scale, rotation, anchor point, opacity, blend mode, all that type of stuff. And, you know, I set a keyboard shortcut for scale, and say, for example, this clip is natively 4K. Say I wanted to say, and I set it back to 100%. Say I want to bring it down to about 25% without having to drag the slider or to do mental math. I can set a value and make it 35, or I could do simple math and say plus 25. And in the effect controls panel, it will update and change the scale based on that. So, you know, a lot of great stuff that's there. And some of my favorite commands, I've probably mentioned a few of them, you know, select clip above and below, fill frame. So for whatever reason, these GIFs aren't playing right now. So I made a few GIFs, and some of these are from Sir Ivan's site, but you just have the option to do a lot of things. So, you know, you have the ability to add keyframes. So I'm going to open up that sequence real quick. So for anyone who uses After Effects or is like a power user, you know how you can add keyframes, like, you know, with a keyboard shortcut. What if you could do that in Premiere too? Like now. My mouse was right here, and it added a keyframe just by, you know, using a keyboard shortcut, and it added a position keyframe in the effect controls panel without me having to do too much. Same thing with scale. And I could also do it for rotation, anchor point, opacity. And say I didn't have the effect controls panel available, and I wanted to, like, let me open up a different sequence. Say I wanted to play around with blend modes, but I don't want to go to my effect controls panel. So I could operate that by enabling Excalibur. I could type in blend mode. And I have access to every blend mode that is in the opacity. And the benefit of Excalibur is I could drag the window up, down, and what have you. So I could do a whole bunch of things with that. So these are all the blend modes that you would find in the effect controls panel. And instead of having to go there, all I have to do is go here. So let's say I want to change this to screen, hit enter. We got ourselves a screen blend mode. And say I want to change it again. Let's say multiply, just like that. And the beauty of all this is that you can, it's not just with one clip. I could do this with multiple clips. So say I want to have a hot mess of blend modes going on. I can select 2 clips. Since I have 3 clips right here, I can just change that. Let's make them all, I don't know, let's go with hard light. And as you can see, if I go to the effect controls panel, this is hard light, and so is this clip. And this clip is normal. And so overall, like, you know, you do have the ability to do a lot of things without having to move your mouse as often. If I want to reset these back to normal, I can use my keybind for that, for blend mode, and they're back to normal. So before Premiere Pro 24.3, we didn't have visual indicators of our color labels. But Excalibur, since I think like, back in 2021 or 2022, you've had the ability to look at your label colors. So if I want to change my label color in my project panel, I can type in LAB, it'll give me labels, and it gives me a whole drop down of all 16 color labels that I find in my preferences. So I could go red, pink, I could go for all the 16 labels that I do have and change that either on the timeline level or in the project panel level. And since I have show source clip and name enabled, this will reflect in the project panel. So there is a lot of things you can do thanks to Excalibur. Excalibur really just opens up the possibilities and capabilities that Premiere has overall. So I can change my blend mode. I can add keyframes like I can in After Effects. So that whole add keyframe thing you saw me doing. So if I want to add a position keyframe, I can also delete it by hitting my keybind for that. Or I can just type in position, go into its submenu, set a position on the X and a position on the Y, or modify the value, or add or delete a keyframe. So there's just a whole lot of opportunities and a lot of abilities you could do with Excalibur, and it's just so deep. So looks like someone has a question.
Yeah, Fred has a question about what's your shortcut for add keyframe and select above or below, for example.
Okay, so I'm going to open up my Excalibur settings. So in Excalibur settings, this is where you will find all your user commands or macros, as they're sometimes called. So I have for add position, my keybind is Alt or Option. No, actually, it's Control, Option, and 1 on the numeric pad, and then just went through the numeric pad just using the same one, just so I could like commit it to memory and whatnot. So there's that, and then select above and below. I have that as what do I have that as Control and Alt, up and down. So that just allows me to go up and down at like so. And then also, like I was talking about the extend capability. So obviously you don't have to type in the full word of a lot of things. So say, for example, I wanted to extend my selection. I can either type it in here, or I can create a user command and keybind that allows me to extend my selection. So I can extend, actually, let me open up the extend sequence. So say, for example, I select below, and then I do extend select, and I could select to the left and select to the left. Nope, it's not quite doing it. Let's see. Hold on. And extend to the left. Man, don't you just hate it when it doesn't seem to be working in the middle of a presentation? All right, so I'm going to do it like this.
So everybody, man.
Yeah, you're going to have, it might be a bug. It might just be my computer just acting up, but you can do extensions like I have here. So I can extend selection with keyboard shortcut. I'm extending down, and then I can move my playhead, and we can extend to the right, hopefully, or not. But usually, and I was testing this beforehand, so I can extend, there we go. Extend to the left, extend up, 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 and deselect. So yeah, you definitely have the ability to do a lot of things. Like this is FX Console, but it's like a Swiss Army knife of just commands and opportunities to do a lot of creative things. Like, so for example, we've probably seen in, the Adobe Premiere Pro editors group about people who want to export, individual clips. So there's the ability to do that. So you can export selected clips, you can export media, you can export frames and markers. You could actually do the whole track forward or track backwards with select all clips after the playhead, or select all clips before playhead. You can invert your selection. So like, say, for example, I had this clip selected, but nothing else selected. It would invert that and select everything but this clip right here. So let me do that real quick. So I'm going to invert my selection. And I'll select everything right there. We do invert selection again. And I have the option of doing tracks with selected clips, all tracks, all targeted tracks, all video tracks, all audio tracks. So just a whole bunch of options to choose from when doing this. And then like, in my PowerPoint, oh, sorry about that. Hold on 1 second. There we go. In my PowerPoint, one of the things that I'm a big proponent of is building macros. This is where you have the opportunity to take your Premiere effects, your transitions, your effect presets, Premiere commands in the keyboard shortcuts editor, and Excalibur commands, and build a macro from a combination of that. And on top of that, you could also build a macro with other macros. So let me go back into Premiere real quick. So I'll go into Excalibur settings and show you some of the macros I've created. Sometimes it takes a minute to load. There we go. So for example, for anyone who works with Premiere and After Effects, I created this thing called dynamic unlink. Obviously, some people are fans of dynamic linking. So, but what mine does is I created a macro where I use my replace with After Effects composition shortcut. I had a wait milliseconds instead of actual seconds. So it waits 10 milliseconds, which if anyone's good at doing math with milliseconds, you will be able to tell you. And then once it sends it over to After Effects, it undoes it and it, keeps the clip. So that clip ends up in After Effects, but it did not create a dynamic link composition in Premiere.
Wait, okay, so I have a question about that. So because I do use dynamic link every once in a while, I roll the dice and hope that it works. So what you created, it's so like normally if you want to send the clip over to After Effects, and you don't want to create a dynamic link, the only way I know to really do it is just to cut and paste between Premiere and After Effects. But what you're doing will just automatically just send it over without having to cut and paste and without creating the dynamic link.
Yeah. So from my testing, and obviously I've talked to Ivan about this as well. One of the things I try to do to make sure that there isn't any sort of funny business is to have After Effects already open when I'm doing this. So when I perform this command, I select my clip, I hit this macro, and it 9.9 times out of 10 works. There might be that 0.1% time, that 0.1% time where it doesn't, but 9.9% of the time it does work, or 99% of the time it does. So it does that, and then
so it's basically doing the same thing as the cut and paste that I would do. It's just automating it with just instead of copy or cut and then tab over, paste, yours just does it with one click.
Yeah.
Got it.
And the best part about building any of these macros is that you could create a keybind for that, and it'll tell you in the process of adding a keybind if there's any conflict with your Premiere Pro keyboard shortcuts editors. It'll tell you, oh, that's for replace After Effects composition, or oh, that's for going to such and such panel. So, and that's incredible for doing that. And then I also have another shortcut. So, and this one is kind of one of those ones where you kind of only can have like one sequence open at the time. And I'll talk to Ivan about this, when I get a chance. So think about this. Like, think about how many clicks it takes you to get from pause resolution and playback resolution. What if you could set both those resolution with a keyboard shortcut? So right now I'm at half resolution. I'm going to go to full. And with that keybind, I was able to change my playback resolution to full and pause resolution to full. So it's like After Effects is where you could go from full, half, third, quarter without having to do too much craziness. And I'll show that macro real quick. And don't worry, in future versions, he's working on it currently that this will load a lot faster. So don't mind my computer. So basically the way this macro was built was I used a keyboard shortcut from my program monitor, which is why I can only have one sequence open at a time with this. I had a keyboard shortcut in my keyboard editor for full resolution. I put an 8 millisecond wait, and then I also did that for my playback resolution or pause resolution. So this allows me to change both the playback and pause resolution from full to, from where it is now to full, or to half, or to a quarter, or what have you. So I have full res, I also have half res, and I also have quarter res, which are all built on the same principles. And let's say, for example, I wanted to open something in the source monitor and have it playing immediately. So this is my quick load source monitor. And just like that, it loaded that clip into the source monitor and it began playing it right away. Now, at some point, hopefully, I would like to get the ability to just play a range. Maybe I could work on a macro by doing that. So, it's the thing with, like I said before in the PowerPoint, is that, like, you could build simple or complex macros. It's what it's like just thinking how Premiere works and utilizing that to your advantage that will allow you to build the macros that you want. Obviously, there's some macros you may not be able to create, or you might need to put some wait commands or what have you. And the point of waits is so that, like, it doesn't ask the program to do too many things simultaneously. So that's why the wait command is there. So you can have like a 8 millisecond wait, you can have like a 10 millisecond wait, 15, 30, what have you. And you just allow Premiere to do its business while also getting to the next command and the next command and the next command.
Can you, I mean, listen, that's freaking amazing, but can you show how you build a macro like from the ground up? Like,
Sure. All right. So the way to build a macro in Excalibur settings would be to do this. All right. So I'm going to add a user command. Let's name it. Let's name it source monitor to effects panel. And then I'm going to add a command. So if I want to access a keyboard shortcut from Premiere, I would type in KYB, and then it would pop up keyboard shortcut, command 1, like that. And then I'd add another command, KYB. Effects panel, and then I hit OK. And since I'm in my program monitor right now, if I type in that command, didn't type that right sometimes. If I do that again, sometimes it'd be a little finicky. All right, if I do that again. So right now, because I think I'm already on the source panel, it's not allowing me to activate the way I wanted to. So apologies for that. But
so it's basically, from what it's just, I mean, it's basically you're just combining keyboard shortcuts that are already sort of built into Premiere and then just giving them another, and so it's multiple actions, and then just saying, okay, when I type in, Eric mode, it will do, whatever you call it. It'll just do all of those things all at once. So, and that's all you're really doing to build that macro, is combining already made keyboard shortcuts.
Exactly.
Got it.
Yeah. So, with the list I have here, like, obviously, remember when I said you could combine macros with macros? So this one here is called position scale start and end of frame. So basically what this does is it will add a position and scale keyframe to the beginning of a clip, then go to the end of the clip and add a position scale keyframe for that. So that way, if I want to do a manual Ken Burns and not have to do a million mouse clicks to do that, I do that with this macro right here. And this took me probably took me about 20 minutes to come up with it, because I just had to think about, all right, I'm using my add scale keyframe macro, which is up here. So like I said before, you combine macros that are already made into other macros. So macros into macros.
Okay. As somebody who has to do photo montages every once in a while, that could be, I mean, right now I feel like a complete sucker for going in and manually and animating all my photos. Because if I understand what you just did, you kind of created custom moves with this thing, and all I have to do is just use Excalibur now and just add these custom macros to all those images, and they'll just animate themselves.
Yeah. So I think in what you're trying to do, like with the whole slideshow, so it may work on one clip at a time, and obviously you could definitely test it out. The whole thing with creating macros is definitely experiment and see where the strengths and weaknesses are. And
right,
he also does have he does have a forum, he does have a Discord, he has a subreddit where you could ask for feature requests, and he's pretty responsive. But like with this macro that I built here, not only can I add keyframes to the beginning and start of a clip using both my other macros and keyboard shortcuts in Premiere, I could also add a value on those last keyframes and be like, change scale to plus 50 or plus 20, or change position from X, Y, and all that. So like you could, in theory, create a quick Ken Burns using native keyframes to do so.
Wow. How long did it take you, like, of all these macros? I mean, is it just like when you're editing, something comes up, you're like, crap, this takes 3 keystrokes, I got to build a macro for that? and then you just like keep adding on, and then I don't know how you keep them all straight in your head.
So the way I keep that straight in my head is like I have a setup subscription, and I have this app called Clean Shot, and what I do is I record the Excalibur settings, and I'll usually just start at the top and just slowly scroll down. It'll end up being like a 1 to 2 minute video, and I'll just watch that. Like obviously he's working on with the next version of Excaliburs in the future to make this not as necessary to do, but it's the way I go about it. And yeah, it allows me to just look at Excalibur settings, be like, oh, so this is the keyboard shortcut for add a scale keyframe or clear everything or what have you. So yeah, and like you said, whenever something just feels like it's taking a little too much time, then I'm like, yeah, let's see if I can create a macro for that. Like, for example, like what if like you have I'm going to see the properties of this clip. No, it's 1080p. So if I had if I had like a 4K clip, I think this one is 4K. All right, so I'm going to use one of his shortcuts with fill frame to scale it down. Say, for example, I scaled down a 4K clip in a 1080p timeline, and I want to add warp stabilizers because it's like shaky and stuff like that. The amount of mouse clicks you have to do that will probably take you at least like a minute or two. Why not make it shorter? All right, looks like we got some questions. So what I was able to do was I created a macro where I nested my sequence, and then it applied the warp stabilizer effect and went into full effect.
Awesome. Yeah, Fred commented something about my Ken Burns thing and said there's a AE script has automatic or let's see, Ken Burns pan zoom effect that can be applied automatic blocks on AE script.
Oh yeah, from Matthias. Yeah, I got that one too. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
You have all the best toys, dude. Anyway, go ahead.
So yeah, you could definitely create a nest and warp. And also one of the other things with Excalibur is like you have 2 different versions of nesting a sequence. So I could do it the Premiere way. So if I want to nest this clip, I have the Premiere Pro nest where I'll create a nested clips bin in the project panel, or I can do Excalibur bin, which will be a more API workaround way. So I'm actually going to show this on an audio clip that, let's say, let's go here, not here. Let's open this sequence real quick. So say, for example, I only want a nest sequence with this sound effect right here. Now, if I do the Premiere way, I have to add all these extra things. So I'm going to nest this right here and do an Excalibur nest. And let's say audio only. And right here, I'm going to scale this up. It created an audio only nested sequence. I go inside of that, and that's the only thing that's there. No video, no adjustment layer needed. And if I don't need that, I can just remove all those empty sequences except the video one, because that's a API limitation. So with an Excalibur nest, I have a little more flexibility, compared to a Premiere Pro nest. But one of the things I do like is that whenever you do create nested sequences, it does create a nested clips bin inside. So it shows me every time I've created a nested sequence that I could refer to and go back to. And then, but as great as this is, it does have its limitations. They're not like full on game breakers. So like if anyone's using Premiere Pro 2019, apparently the paste clip command won't work with clips that were cut, not copied. If you make a mask with the opacity effect in the effect controls panel, that's not supported. When it comes to video presets with Lumetri and you have any modifications to that, it will default. It won't actually, take those settings for. I'm not sure if that's I'm not sure if that's a Adobe API issue or it's just like an overall API issue. You might want to talk to Sir Ivan about that. Also, with the tint effect that I used earlier, if like I have keyframes in those color values, they won't be correct. And unfortunately, as much as we like having effects presets, if we do custom transition durations like the native transitions in Premiere, And like, say for example, I created like one, I took this transition and created one that's like 5 frames, 15 frames, or 1 second. It won't acknowledge that transition because it's a limitation in the API. And also, one of the things that's a work in progress, hopefully there'll be a workaround at some point, is adding presets with Bezier keyframes. I know a lot of people who do animation within Premiere, they like to have their keyframes a certain way. So unfortunately, it's not as possible yet, but hopefully in the near future it will be. So that's something to definitely look forward to. And you know, the funny thing about Excalibur is that it's not just its own thing. It definitely, he's made, like you said, he makes a lot of products. And the funny thing is, it's like if you take Excalibur and combine it with some of the other Knights of the Editing Table products, you're kind of getting this like Voltron assembly where I can control Arrow through Excalibur, I can control Grave Robber through Excalibur, and I can control Anchor through Excalibur as well.
Love the Voltron reference there, by the way.
Nice. So I can control Anchor through Excalibur. So if I say, for example, I was in here and I use my, that's one of the drawbacks of my select clip things. Like sometimes I have to close other panels, but so you see the anchor point here. I want to change that, and I go type in ANC and go to anchor. I have access to everything that panel right here has access to. So middle left, middle right, top left, top right. So if I want to change the anchor point, hit enter, boom. I can control anchor without having this panel open. I like to have it open just for aesthetics. You know, it's like, you know, you want to be like Batman with your utility belt and just show people all your gadgets and whatnot. So that's just me. Obviously, some people like it cleaner, and maybe it's possible that not having so many extensions open will not slow you down. So you can definitely control Grave Robber, Anchor, Arrow, and a few others. And on top of that, like Excalibur works with peripherals as well. So you could use a Stream Deck, you can use a Monogram, you can use Touch Portal, you can use a Torbox, you can use Loop Deck. You know, so if you create Excalibur macros and you keybind those at macros, you can control those through these peripherals. And I'm pretty sure, I think Scott Simmons wrote an article about it a few years back about how, you know, how open-ended this all is. But yeah, it's pretty incredible what you can do with it, with you know, peripherals like this, where you can control Excalibur stuff as well. And trying to think what else. Before I get into the prices, anyone else have any additional questions or whatnot?
Yeah, if you got any questions for Kes, just go ahead and you can unmute yourself and ask him, or type in the chat.
Yeah,
if you're shy.
But yeah, as it is right now, like it is $120 US. But you know, he does periodically have sales events going on. I found that during the plague season, which is usually right before Black Friday and, you know, the crazy December season, that's when you'll have sales for not only Excalibur but for all the products. And he is pretty responsive in his forum, which I have a link here to, and you know, he's also pretty responsive in his Discord servers, which I also have a link to as well. And a lot of things I was able to learn and build my macros on were based on what the manuscript is here. So I'll share that real quick. So let me go to that.
And maybe Kes too, like if we've got a few minutes, maybe kind of talk about some of the other products and what they do. Because I know I use some of them as well. And I mean, they're just as helpful.
Yeah.
Yes, I would love to spend a day looking over Kes's shoulder as well.
The funny thing is that, like Neil, I see a lot of comments that Neil makes in the Adobe forums, and I'm actually a big fan of his. He, you know, I'm more.
Neil knows a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Neil, so I definitely would like to. I'd like to do the same thing with you. I probably learn so much from what you're doing. But yeah, yeah, the manuscript not only has stuff for Excalibur, but also has stuff for Watchtower, which is a work in progress. Watchtower, which is, you know, that favorite app that allows you to sync your Explorer or Finder folders for Premiere Pro and After Effects to your bins inside of those programs and import image sequences, you know, do a whole lot of stuff. But right now he is working on that. You know, this is a beta for Excalibur, which he is currently working on. That's going to be next level. You're all going to enjoy it. And obviously, if anyone noticed to the left of my timeline, he's also working on this thing called Quiver, which would allow me to add stuff to the timeline into a Quiver bin. So let me see if I can let's see if I can clean that up a little bit. So, for example, I want to have adjustment layers and I want to choose where they go. So real quick, I go like this. And let's see, I want to have my adjustment layer. I want it to overlay, but I want it to overlay to track 3. Boom. And let's say I want to replace this clip right here, this transparent video clip. Go to video track 1 and let's insert. Right now, because they're all selected, it's doing a replace. So let me do it without replacing stuff. And I can just keep doing that.
How did you make it pick track 1 again versus like track 3?
So I right click on the item in Quiver and
Okay.
I went to method. So you have 3 methods. You have overlay, overwrite, insert, and then I can either do target track. So if I had, say for example, I had track 5.
Your overlay. That's why.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the overlay's not showing. That's why.
Oh, okay. Let me see if I can undock this.
I'm like, wow, that's super magical. It somehow knows.
All right, are y'all able to see it now?
I can see Quiver, but when you are you right clicking on it?
Yeah, let me see if I can share the screen on that. All right.
Yeah, we can see Quiver, but we can't see your context menu when you right clicked it.
Yes.
Okay. All right, let me try now. So you guys see it now?
No.
Okay.
But I mean, knowing that that's what's there and it's allowing you, that answers my question of how it knows. So
yeah.
Okay.
Oop, it's the dreaded crash. Sorry about that. But yeah, overall, like, yeah, Excalibur is incredible. It's phenomenal. And like the other products he has in this lineup are pretty great too. Sorry about that. Just dealing with a minor crash. Still in beta, but it should be hopefully there in the summertime. But yeah, overall, like when I bought it, it was a little bit lower, but obviously with the growth of his team as well as the growth of things that people wanted in it, like it changed, how much work had to go into maintaining everything. So I could definitely understand why there was a price increase and why sometimes people may not want to spend as much money. But honestly, like when I bought it back in 2021, it paid for itself after one job. So I had the opportunity to make that money back relatively quickly. And the thing I love about him is that he is very responsive, very good with the customer service, and very open to feature requests as well as ideas. So if like you have an idea for something and you really think it out, and you're just trying to think how would this work? How could this make me better? Because obviously with our timeline, with our deadlines changing, a lot of people just want to get to the finished product a lot quicker. You can't go wrong with a tool like Excalibur. And there's going to be people who praise the hell of it, like myself, and there's going to be some people who are like, maybe. But you're leaving a lot of opportunities to do a lot of great stuff on the table if you don't check it out.
For me, I don't use it as much as I should, but I will say that it's a bit, I'll equate it to this. Like I'll use this story to kind of illustrate it, that when I first started working for a producer here in town, who's not on this call, I don't think, but he used to get on me because I used to be a very mouse-driven editor, and he would get on me about learning keyboard shortcuts, and he would always say, learn their shortcuts, you'll edit a lot faster. And I always think, nah, I don't know what he's talking about, old man. And but the truth of the matter is he was absolutely right. And I am a much more, I eventually I had a couple other people tell me that, not criticizing my editing, but just like it would come up. And so, I bought one of the color keyboard, like all editors have, to learn those shortcuts. And he was absolutely right. Knowing those keyboard shortcuts speeds you up, not having to drag a mouse around and do that kind of stuff. You just edit so much faster. And Excalibur kind of takes that in my estimation, to another level. It just gives you more speed. Now, it's crazy how that works. And so, I really encourage, if you're already a keyboard driven editor, having Excalibur in your tool set is just going to make you work that much faster.
For sure. And and to be honest, I probably only maybe showed like 10-50% of what it could truly do. Like obviously with all the questions we see in the forums or the Facebook groups, it's like, you want to be able to export multiple clips, you want to be able to do a lot of things. It's like, Excalibur can definitely do that. And, as far as I know, it doesn't have any known conflicts, but if it ever does, feel free to send Sir Ivan an email, or reach out on the Discord server or the subreddit, and he will definitely get to you in a timely fashion.
I will say too, you're absolutely right about the cost. I mean, yeah, I don't think I paid that much for it when it came out. I was surprised to see that it had come up that much, but they do have sales. I think you're right. I think it's usually around Black Friday. And when they do, you got to jump on it. I think I bought all their plugins on Black Friday. I'm just like, I'm diving into the deep pool here, and I'm just getting everything.
Right.
Watchtower is the other one that I use quite a bit. It's so good.
And then let me see. Yeah, so if I didn't show that already, so so here is his Discord. He has, we definitely have a growing member base here with, he lets us know when there's updates. We have people interact, and he also has a beta nights one where if like you want to reach out and be able to join and hopefully participate in betas, you do that too as well. But yeah, overall here's his form as well. Overall, like Excalibur is pretty powerful, and it's one of those like it's hard to use Premiere without it, because like once you have it, then it's like hard to go back. It's kind of like probably how a lot of people felt anytime they touched a video co-pilot product. Once you use it, it's really hard to like not want to use it all the time. Like you just want to use it nonstop. And like I said before, with Excalibur, you can control other Excalibur apps. You can control Grave Robber. You can control Anchor, Arrow. Compass not quite yet, but it's still worth exploring. And Portal is a great app for allowing you in almost all the Adobe apps to go to your favorite folders without having to fish through your Explorer or your Finder and what have you. So yeah, definitely take a look at this manuscript. If anyone has any questions, feel free to let me know. Yeah.
How often? So just speaking of their other products, Chronicler is the new one. Is a relatively new one that tracks your time while you're editing. How often are you using that, and how well does it work?
So I usually have that like running in the background. And the funny thing is sometimes like I haven't actually used it to like actually charge clients to say like, hey, I spent 60 hours editing your project. You owe me this amount of money. But like I do have it running in the background and seeing that it was tracking anytime I open up Photoshop, After Effects, even anytime I had like an untitled project, I was just like messing around, it definitely tracked that. So it's come a long way. And it's definitely one of those like I would definitely recommend exploring that and trying that out, because obviously that question does come up a lot. How often, like, how can I track my project so I can know, all right, I spent X amount of time doing this, and Chronicler is capable of doing that. And it's one of those things where it's like, how do I say this in the best way possible? He basically has a whole like, if he releases a product, just take my money. Like, yeah. I will just give you the direct access to my banking account, savings account. You just take it, because his stuff is that good.
Well, that to me, a common question, and I don't know everybody's situation on in this meeting about where they are as an editor and things like that. But for new editors, one of the things I get asked a lot is like, well, how do you know how much to charge for a project?
Yeah,
because with the type of clients that I have, I don't bill by the hour. I'm providing a quote. It's like a flat rate for the whole job, and so. And knowing how long it's going to take to do something, especially when you're first starting out, is difficult. And when I first started out, somebody gave me the idea or the wisdom of, creating a timesheet, logging your hours, and then keeping those. And then as you get, requests for new projects, thinking, okay, this project sounds like that one I did for company X, and you go find that timesheet. Say, okay, it took me about 16 hours to do that, or it took me 20 hours to do that, and then you quote accordingly. And Chronicler would be a great way to, when you're starting out, track your time while you're working on stuff so that it can help you quote on those projects when you get them, instead of having to do old school, writing on a sheet of paper like I did, it'll just keep track of that. And then you'll always kind of know, okay, these projects are taking me this long and I know how to quote and things like that. So,
yeah, exactly. And, it's like, and the thing is, like I said before, once you're a customer, you have, we all have the ability to ask for, can it do this? Can it do that? And he is really receptive. Like I even saw a feature request about the ability to match frame to a source sequence within a large project or within a production, and he was able to bring that somehow. I forgot which of our members from the APPE group asked for it, but he was able to bring that somehow. And it's like the things he's able to code and come up with, and just able to allow us to work in a much more efficient manner where I can maintain that creative flow and not have to think too much. Like, oh, I need a film impact transition right here. Boom, on there. Oh,
Yeah.
I need to add a Ken Burns thing. Yeah, exactly. Match source across production. Yeah, like Neil said, I can send the videos and links to the YouTube channel, which I probably should have done in my slideshow. Like that's one of the things. If you ever really want to like see how powerful this is, like definitely check out his YouTube channel. I could put that in the chat, or I could put it, I could give it to Eric and he could give it to everyone else, and you can definitely check it out. Like the things that they're able to do with these extensions is just incredible.
I was thinking, you mentioned Video Copilot a while ago, and it's like I remember, I don't know how long ago it was, but whenever Andrew Kramer released something new, it was just like, he's got a new plugin, download now. Had to happen. And yeah, we're kind of at that way with a lot. Well, for me, Film Impact is the one that I just, the minute I see something new come out, it's like, boom, just give it to me. I don't care. I'll run the risk if there's bugs. I just want the new stuff. Give it to me. It's so good.
Yeah, and Yop just makes some incredible plugins, especially with his new effect stuff. Like I used it on a few projects where I just needed a quick Ken Burns, and now having to keyframe stuff with his grow effects or shrink effects or move effects, it was just like, oh, it's like how have I been editing without something like this existing for this long? It's like incredible.
Warren has a comment here. A match frame that displays a list of everywhere the frame appears in a project or production would be amazing. Yes, it would.
Yes, it would. Yeah,
yes, it would. Sounds like a feature request.
Yeah. I could, and if you want to join his forum and post, or you want to join his Discord and post, feel free to do so. I definitely have the links. Let me share that real quick. Definitely have the links. So if anyone wants to take a screenshot, definitely have the links right here on. Yeah.
Yep, there they are. Screen grab that. All right. Any final questions for Kes about anything? Come on. Kes is a premier genius. We don't have to stick to just Excalibur. Thanks for coming, Fred. Good to see you. And no, there was a question too about the meeting being recorded. Someone who showed up late. Yes, this meeting will be recorded. It will be up on our YouTube channel at some point next week. So I normally try to get it turned around in a day or two, but I have got a lot going on. So, but it will be up next week for sure.
Yeah.
Any other questions before we wrap up here? Come on, somebody try to stump Kes. I want to see that happen. There's a lot of smart people on this call.
Trust me, I'm pretty sure there's like people who've been doing this longer than I have who could stump me. The minute you get into anything color or anything like really in the depths of audio, then like it's like I have to be listening to you. So
hold on, what we got? So thank you again. You got a lot of thanks, dude. A lot of people loved having you here. There was a question about conflicts. Will there be other programs? Yeah, so there's I think that Ellen, there weren't any other conflicts that we knew of. So yeah, it should run fine. Can he come up here for free? Exports clip. Oh, John's asking export clips from bin.
I'm not sure I could do that, but that is a great feature request. I'll definitely ask him that.
Yeah, I would like that. That would be kind of cool. And where can we find Kes on Reddit?
So on Reddit, my handle is let me type that in the chat real quick. 85. So and there you go.
I don't see anything else.
And let me know if you guys want to invite to the our premier Discord server where we have a variety of members from all skill levels, and if you are a seasoned pro, I'll give you that one badge that allows you to do whatever you want without being too obnoxious, of course. But my brother and sister who are pros in this community are all welcome.
Sounds good. All right. I'll gladly. I think you meant, Neil, you'd hop on your Discord. Yeah, I'll gladly hope on your Discord.
Hey, we can use hope too. We can use hope too.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you everybody for showing up. Kes, thank you especially for that amazing presentation, dude. There's so much knowledge there. And dude, I want to get you to come back just to talk about other stuff some other time, because I know your wealth of knowledge is just so deep. And I can't tell you, after all this time, to finally get you on here to present and have you up there, it means a lot to me, because I love you, man. You're the best. And so yeah, and I always, whenever I know I'm gonna see Kes, I'm always super excited, because he's just the nicest guy. And I don't get to see him but like maybe once a year at something, usually Adobe related. But so yeah. Are you gonna go to Max this year, by the way?
Hey, if they're inviting, if not, I'll try to save up for it. If they're inviting, if they're bringing us out, the Odyssey fam, why not?
Yeah, no, I'm thinking about whether I can do it or not too. Miami's a long way to go. So, but anyway. All right, everybody. Well, that is the meeting for this month. I will be in touch about next month's meeting soon. Thank you, everybody, again for coming. And yeah, the meeting will be up on YouTube soon. So just subscribe to our YouTube channel. I should probably have a link to that, but come on, it's YouTube. If you don't know how to search for San Diego Premiere Pro user group on YouTube, you've got bigger fish to fry with your computer. But yeah, thank you all for coming.